Hello, and welcome to my community concert. My name is Chris Wolf, and I've been the principal trombonist with the Phoenix Symphony for 9 seasons. A little bit about myself. I'm originally from Ellicott City, Maryland, which is close to Baltimore. I went to University of Maryland for undergraduate, and Juilliard was for grad school, and I was lucky enough to have my Phoenix Symphony audition a week after that graduation ceremony, which was very convenient. A couple other things about me that you notice in the background. One, I'm a fan of comedian Patton Oswalt, who I saw at Stand Up Live downtown a few years ago. These two right here are made by my sister back home, who is an art teacher and artist in general. This is her iguana painting, and this is a drawing she made of our dog, Buddy, who is hiding in the bedroom because he tends to make a lot of noise when I play trombone. And then you see some cookbooks here. Here is an important one. This is my family cookbook. My wife, Katie, who is a music teacher in Mesa, also has a family cookbook, which looks even more impressive. So the first piece you heard just now was the Saint-Saëns Cavatine for trombone, and you saw me playing that on my tenor trombone, which is the instrument that I play 90% of the time. But the theme of today's concert is the other instruments I play, which is going to include the euphonium and the alto trombone. This is an E-flat trombone, which, as you can tell, is a good bit smaller than the tenor trombone. And it's used somewhat regularly with Beethoven, Schumann, and a couple other assorted works that get played by symphony orchestras regularly. So to give you an idea of how this instrument sounds, we're going to start with the second movement of Wagenseil's Alto Trombone Concerto. So, as you can hear, a smaller instrument, kind of a smaller sound. It's a little bit trumpety and has a really pingy articulation, and it's just generally a little bit lighter and brighter than a tenor trombone. By the way, as we go through this program, I'm really hoping to chat with you guys in the comments. So look for a comment section and ask me some questions about the instruments I'm playing, what work is like, how I practice, anything. And actually, if there's enough interest, maybe we could do a live Q&A online where we can talk to each other sometime in the future. So let me know if you're interested in that too. The next thing we're going to hear is a choral work, and the alto trombone I think is especially suited for choral works because it has that smaller sound. It means that I can be heard present with a lot of presence, even at kind of a louder dynamic while still managing not to cover the other parts of the ensemble or the choir. So it has a really clear and present sound, but it's not as big as a tenor trombone. So the next thing we're going to listen to is the Kyrie from Mozart Requiem. Funny story about this, when I was first kind of getting used to alto trombone and I was learning this piece, I was at home in Maryland, and my mom, who has been an alto in the Baltimore Choral Art Society for my whole life, caught a bunch of wrong notes that I hadn't noticed yet. So I've gotten that straightened out, and now let's check out Mozart Requiem on alto trombone. So next up, we're going to talk about Beethoven, who was the first composer to use trombone in a symphony. And Beethoven's Fifth and Ninth Symphony, which are very regular parts of the repertoire for orchestra, are important works for the trombone. And we'll start with an excerpt from Beethoven 5, which for the trombone, it's only in the last movement, but it's pretty big, and it contains the highest note in the standard rep, even higher than really adventurous contemporary music. And Beethoven's 9, after that, it's a little bit more similar to music from before. It's mostly just with the choral parts, and you can hear me playing along with the altos a lot of the time. But same thing, pretty high and challenging. So this is Beethoven's Fifth and Ninth Symphony, just two short excerpts. All right, so the last thing we're going to hear on alto trombone is an excerpt from Schumann's Third Symphony. This is another audition excerpt that I would commonly play in an audition. And we did this earlier this year with the symphony. I decided to try my hand at a multi-track recording of this. So what we're going to hear is me playing all three trombone parts from the opening chorale of the fourth movement of Schumann's Third Symphony. So next, we're going to check out the euphonium. This one might look a little more familiar because you see euphoniums or baritones, which are very similar in concert bands and even marching bands, although they don't always look quite like this in a marching band. They have kind of a warm, smooth sound compared to trombone. And of course, the bell points up, so that means they blend with the ensemble really differently. Sometimes they're referred to as tenor tuba because they look like a small tuba. The first thing we're going to listen to is a piece called Estraita. This is an arrangement of that by my good friend and tuba player / teacher extraordinaire, Pat Sheridan, who lives in Chandler. So the first orchestral excerpts we're going to hear are from Gustav Holst's The Planets, which is always another big hit downtown. This one is mostly solo playing. At least what you're going to hear today is solo playing, and it tends to be written kind of high, and some of it's very virtuosic in the valves. And I've kind of done my best to improve my valves playing. It's kind of been one of my quarantine projects to get better at euphonium. So I picked a couple excerpts that I can handle. There's a few things in here that I am not up to yet. It's really a valve-heavy work. It's kind of based on maybe British brass band style writing, which includes lots and lots of different valved instruments like this one, lots of variations on trumpet and flugelhorn. There's a few even more rare instruments that still have this 3-valve combination in British brass bands. So that's kind of his inspiration, Holst, a British composer. These are 3 excerpts from Mars, Jupiter, and Uranus. So next we're going to check out some of the work of Richard Strauss, who has a few works that include major euphonium parts. The first one is going to be Don Quixote, which I actually got to play with Arizona Music Fest earlier this year. And the euphonium part in Don Quixote, it's pretty big. And along with the bass clarinet, it's the voice of Sancho Panza, Don Quixote's sidekick. So we're mostly playing the same theme throughout the work, but it transforms as the story unfolds. So you're going to hear 4 excerpts that start from the beginning of the work all the way through to the end, and you'll see how it changes. Okay, so we're in the home stretch here. This is the last thing we're going to hear for euphonium. This is from Strauss's Ein Heldenleben, A Hero's Journey. And in this piece, it's really more of an ensemble part. It's not as often a solo instrument, and it blends with lots of different parts of the brass section in different ways throughout the whole thing. And we're going to listen to two excerpts. One is from the battle scene, and this one is a little bit like a solo, except during the battle scene of Ein Heldenleben, it's total chaos, and kind of everyone's playing solos all at the same time. The next one is just a little snippet of the main hero's theme, which you hear stated at the beginning of the piece by the French horns. So here we are at the end, and I want to thank you all for watching. And please find me in the comments so we can talk to each other, and let me know if you're interested in something live in the future. And just a couple little surprise toys here to reward you for watching this long. These are just a couple other toys I have around the house. One of them is this conch shell, and it really is a conch shell. You play it by buzzing your lips just like you would other brass instruments. I also have a didgeridoo. This is also by buzzing your lips. And last but not least, my bass guitar. Thanks so much for watching.